and we will officially begin again. So good afternoon again. My name is Kara Monroe, and I'm going to bring up a slide a little bit about myself here. This is our time management and study skills webinar. Ordinarily, when we do webinars like this at the beginning of this semester, we don't spend a lot of time talking about ourselves. My colleague Kathy, who's also on the line with us. However, in this one, it's important because we're trying to demonstrate some good time management tips to you. And one of the important things about time management is sort of understanding who you are and what the roles are that you play in life, and what your priorities are in life. And in a minute, we're going to ask you to sort of make a list of those for yourself. But my roles, I'm an individual, first of all, so it's important to know yourself and to think about your own needs. I'm also a daughter and a sister. I'm an aunt and a great aunt to two really cute little great niece and nephew. I'm a niece and an employee and a volunteer. I'm not a wife or a mother, which I know is a role many of you play. You're balancing being a spouse and having children as well, and I commend you for the hard work of combining those kinds of family priorities with school. And then I have a lot of different priorities. My family and friends are definitely a priority for me, as well as I enjoy a lot of creative outlets like photography and art and all of those sorts of things. I love to learn, so all sorts of different learning activities that I do. And then health and fitness is really important to me. I've recently lost a lot of weight, and so it's really important to me to maintain that. So this is something we're going to ask you to do in just a minute, to keep an eye on those things for yourself. But before we get to that, I want to go over a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about what time management is and review some real specific steps in how you can plan for the future around setting long and short-term goals, developing new habits, and then learning to prioritize your tasks and monitor your tasks. That's where we get really specific into sort of managing schoolwork in general, is that second section on that. And we'll look at how to look at your course schedule, how to put things in either to a Google Calendar or into a paper calendar, and how to sort of look ahead and plan ahead for things in class. That's where we see a lot of students get themselves into trouble, is they're just managing week to week and not really looking ahead at the next week. And throughout this, we're going to talk about sort of building a system for you. As we were preparing for the webinar today, we asked you if you currently used a time management system. Sort of what was that? Was it a combination of paper or digital or a combination of those two? 67% of you said you use a combination. That's what I use too. So we'll show you some tips from both of those. And then talk a little bit about sort of just some study tips and strategies that we'll throw in all the way through the webinar. I'm going to reinforce for you again. Again, we all get the same 24 hours in the day, but we have very different things to fit in them during the day. So the thing about time management is you've got to find what works for you, and when it stops working, because it will, because your life changes. Many of you are starting a school again for the first time. You were telling us that in the question panel. And so you're taking on new things, and maybe the systems you've used before, they're not going to work for you, and you've got to find something else that works. So you're taking a great first step by sitting through this webinar today and interacting with us to learn about that. A few rules for the road. I don't have a lot of rules about time management, but I do have 3 of them. Change is going to happen. So today for me is a really great example of that. As I walked in the door to the office today with a plan in my head of what I needed to get done, I think 2 or 3 people asked me questions. Kathy was sitting in the room as I came in. I think you even asked me one of those questions as I was walking in. And those changed the plan that I had for the day eventually. So your plan's going to change. The important thing is to have a plan so that you know what you need to get done in the day, and you're not going, oh my gosh, I forgot that. I can't believe I forgot to do that. The second one, and this is probably the hardest rule for me, I struggle with procrastination. I don't know about any of the rest of you, but that is something that I have struggled with all my life. And one of the things that I have realized is that any work you do is better than no work at all. So even if all you can do is just read 1 page of that chapter you've got to read, that's better than not having started it. So that's a really good thing to keep in mind as you're going along here. And then the other thing that's really hard about this, procrastination, especially for me, was something I felt a lot of sort of guilt about. And I thought, man, I'm a good student. I shouldn't do this. And I had to learn how to ask other people for help. And what worked for me was starting, instead of maybe asking for help where I might feel a little guilty or a little weird about that, I'd ask them what works for them. People like to talk about themselves. They like to share with you what really works for them. And maybe what works for them might also work for you. So that's a really good thing to think about in terms of learning from other people and having conversations like that. So with that, let's talk about for just a second what time management is. Time management is the ability to plan and control how you spend the hours in your day to effectively accomplish your goals. The skills in time management are managing your time, including planning for the future, setting goals, prioritizing tasks, and monitoring where your time actually goes. And those are the sort of 4 agenda items we have for today's session. This quote from Henry Ford that I have here on the screen is one that I have had. I had it on my wall in my college dorm room when I was going through my first college degree. It's been my observation that most people get ahead during the time that others waste. And again, that whole idea of it's better to do something than nothing is a really important one to sort of fight procrastination and just keep yourself moving along as you're going through the semester. So now we're going to turn our attention over to you guys. Our first thing that we want to think about is planning for the future. And I think about this about maybe the roles I have or the roles I want to have in the future, as well as what my priorities are right now. So if you'll take just a second, that sort of example I did about me at the beginning, we want you to do that. We want you to list out for yourself what your roles are and what your priorities are in your life. And you can either list them on a piece of paper that you can keep for yourself. If you want to type them in the question pod to us, we love to read them as well, just to know sort of what those priorities are for you. And you're going to see these come up a couple more times during the webinar. I'll give you just a moment to work on those. As you're thinking about these and maybe as you're writing down this list, this is a good list if you do carry a paper planner. It's a good thing to put in that paper planner so that you can look back at it as you are building your schedule each week. It's a good thing that I think through sort of each week quickly. Okay, you know, my role as a daughter, have I called my parents? Have I maybe planned the next trip to go and see them? My parents live about an hour away from here, so I don't get to see them every day, but I try to see them at least once a month. So those are things that you need to think about as you're planning as well, looking at that list of people and that list of priorities and things. Okay, you can keep working on that throughout the session, but I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next slide. Again, you'll see this concept come up of priorities in a minute. And we're going to go on to setting goals. And I love this quote from Napoleon Hill. A goal is a dream with a deadline. And I don't know about you, but I have lots of dreams and plans. I just moved into a new house, a new to me house earlier this year, and it needs a lot of work. I like to describe it as a move-in ready fixer-upper. So it needs a lot of things. And right now I'm in that dreaming stage of dreaming about what I want my kitchen to look like, or dreaming about what I want my bedroom to look like. And until I actually put a deadline on those and a due date on them and actually build a plan for them, all they really are is dreams. But once I put that deadline on them, then they start to become a goal for me. The same is true for school, and I think this is a reason why a lot of students, with all the things that you can learn on your own on the internet nowadays, there's a lot of people who question, you know, does a college degree have as much value as it used to, and those sorts of things. But for some of us, this is how we put a deadline on our learning, is by coming back to school, taking classes, because some external force, an instructor in the school, is putting a deadline on us to get that work done. And so coming back to school is a great way to learn and see those long-term and short-term plans for yourself. In terms of our goal types, we have long-term goals. Those are usually in months or years. That may be for you for schoolwork, earning your degree. It may be sitting if you're in nursing or one of our health fields. It might be sitting for your licensure exam or something like that. Long-term goals, we usually talk about those in terms of months or years. It's easiest to achieve a long-term goal. Long-term goals can be really overwhelming, and it's easiest to achieve a long-term goal if you break it up into some shorter-term things. It gives you that sense of progress, of accomplishment, and I even think about that in terms of your schoolwork this semester. You know, each one of your classes that you're taking, and as we were, again, preparing the webinar today and waiting, we have a really nice mix of students here in the webinar taking online classes. We have about 33% of you that are only taking your courses online. 17 are taking only traditional, and then about 50% of you are taking both online and face-to-face. So each one of those courses is a different long-term goal and needs to be broken down into different parts. Studying for this test, working on this paper, those sorts of things. And those are your short-term goals. Short-term goals, we usually measure those in terms of days or weeks. Again, a lot of them support a longer-term goal. And sometimes short-term goals are often about changing habits. And we're going to spend just a minute here talking about habits. And I think this is sort of one of those things that we don't realize the importance of good habits in our life. I talked a little bit about me developing a habit of eating healthy and exercising through just changing those habits of packing my lunch every day and thinking about what I'm going to eat and making that a priority in my life and making that into a habit, drinking more water as a habit, and then the habit of exercising daily. I've been able to lose 40 pounds. So it's really a life-changing type of thing that is through 3 really simple things: just eating a little bit better, drinking a lot more water, and exercising regularly. Now, this might not be fun for you or fun for me. I'm not a big fan of them, but they have to be done sometimes. Habits make up a large part of who we are, and you can change your habits. Though my favorite thing about a habit is a habit eliminates wasted time. And I think about this, I use this example in most of these sessions. I am very well known for losing my keys. I don't know about any of the rest of you, if you have something that you lose on a regular basis or misplace. And so when I moved into that new house at the beginning of the year, almost the day I moved in, my whole family was there helping me move, and they all were like, okay, where are you going to put your keys? Because they all know this is a thing that I've dealt with most of my life, that I struggle with losing my keys. And so I have a basket that's right beside my door that as soon as I walk in from my garage, I put my keys in it. And, it took me about 10, 15 days to get in that habit. And I sort of misplaced my keys in the house somewhere for about those first 2 weeks before I was like, nope, they go in the basket as soon as I come in the door. So one of my favorite ways to set new habits is a little chart, like this 30-day challenge chart that I've got here. You can just Google 30-day challenge chart, and you can find a bunch of them if you don't like the artsy star ones. But this is a great way to form a new habit. And I just, the way I did it with my keys, I actually used this specific chart with my keys. I stuck this on my bathroom mirror. So I may not remember to put my keys in the basket, but I'm always pretty good about changing out of professional clothes as soon as I get home into more comfortable clothes. So I put this on the door to my closet, and as soon as I'd walk in there, I'd see that, and if I still had my keys in my hand, I'd go put them back in the basket. Not too many days of doing that did I finally learn the habit. So this is a good reminder to yourself, good thing to put someplace so you remember that. Other really good tips for setting new habits, finding a buddy. That's how I've been able to set the habit of exercising and losing weight. In school, that's a really good one, finding a study buddy. I know that sounds like a silly term, but that's what I still call them. Sometimes we call them study partners to make them sound more academic. But finding somebody that will study with you and hold you accountable, and you can hold them accountable to always meeting at a certain time, even if it's online. If you're in one of our online classes, or maybe you don't want to meet physically, use something like our Blackboard Instant Messenger tool to check in with each other. Send each other a quick text or a quick email to say, okay, I'm starting studying. Are you doing it? What are you going to do today? What are your goals? To help yourselves build that thing. You can also, if you don't like this 30-day challenge chart, you can do something like this online. There's a website called joesgoals.com that lets you track those 30-day habits online, if that's more for you. And that's a good reminder too, we all live really mobile lives, and Some of us like to do things all on our phone and never want to carry a notebook or pen with us. That's completely okay. There's usually an online tool for doing everything. Some of us prefer paper or some mix between those. The most important thing about a time management system is that it has to be something that you will always have with you or always have available to you, and something that you will open and use and look at regularly. If you can't do those two things, that system's not working for you. So keep that in mind. Even if it's just a file folder with paper stuck in it, if you're going to keep it with you all the time and look at it regularly, that's perfect. But you've got to think about that in terms of how you're going to build whatever system you build for yourself. The other thing about habits that was really hard for me is if I used to miss a day of my habit and sort of break that chain, I would think, okay, I failed. And then I might not get back to it for 2 or 3 weeks. Well, that's silly. You're just, again, that idea of just do something. I just start again the next day now, and I'm much better at that now. It's not about failing if you mess up for a day. You just got to keep starting over again. So we'll give you guys a second to answer us in the chat panel about what some school-related habits are that you think might help you learn if you could form them. And then maybe think about which one you might start with. So we'd love for you to put those in the question panel for us so we can see what your goals are and what you want to work on. And somebody's asking where you can find the Blackboard IM to download. While you guys are typing those in for us, I will show you where you can find that. Let's see, where's my Blackboard screen? There we go. So in Blackboard, you will find that on the Click for Help tab. And on that Click for Help tab, it is usually located right over here on the right-hand side, the Blackboard Instant Messenger. And that is right there for you. Okay. So in Blackboard, the Click for Help tab at the top, and then Blackboard Instant Messenger. And I see a lot of you are putting those study habits in. That is fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay. Very good. And one more thing before we leave this slide, some of you are putting in just one thing, which is great. Others of you are putting in maybe 3 or 4 things, and that's okay too. I would say for me, I'm a change one habit at a time kind of person. Some people can change 4 or 5 habits at a time. I can kind of only do 1, maybe 2 at a time. You got to figure out what works for you. So I would say if you're really struggling with sort of figuring it all out at once, maybe turn back a little bit and get just 1 at a time, or maybe 2 at a time at most. But if you can do multiple at a time, that's fantastic. I see a lot of you are wanting to talk about creating a routine and sticking to it, or building out a plan for time to work on things. So we're going to start to focus on that now. So there's a really famous example from a man named Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey is the author of a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he tells a story by illustrating it. So he's in a big lecture hall, and he's got this glass jar. And the glass jar represents all of the time that we have available to us within the week. And then we're going to fill that time up with different things. And he's got 3 things he's going to put in that jar. He's going to put in big rocks, he's going to put in pebbles, and he's going to put in sand. Now, the sand are all those little things that come up during the week. For me, they're things like checking Facebook, or maybe even just sort of some of the routine stuff like cooking dinner, or doing laundry, or any of those things, watching TV, all of those sorts of things. Pebbles are, some of the little tasks that we've got to do, maybe going to the grocery store, planning dinner, all those things. And then the big rocks that he has are those big things that are helping me work towards my goals. So going to class, spending time on my homework, going to work, building in exercise time, all of those sorts of things. And so the first time he tries to put everything in the jar, he puts all the sand, he puts all those little things in first, and then he puts in the pebbles, and then he puts the big rocks on top. And you can see in the example on the left, the big rocks, they don't fit very well. They're kind of poking out the top, and that's kind of how some of us feel every week, like everything is just flying out the top and we don't have time to get everything done. In the second example, he pours everything back out, separates it all back out again. He puts the big rocks in first, so he puts in those priorities first into his into his schedule. Then he fills in the pebbles around them, and then he fills the sands into the rest. And it does pack the whole jar up to the full 24 hours a day that we have in our 7 days a week, but it all fits. And so that's the method of scheduling that we're going to show you. We're going to talk to you about fitting in those big rocks first, and then planning everything else around that. So that's the method we're going to use. So you have to do that, first of all, by identifying your big rocks. And quite often those look like those roles and priorities that we talked about earlier. In terms of your schoolwork, those big rocks, as most of you probably are, if you've been in your classes already in Blackboard, or if you have been to class already, you probably already have your class schedule. So you can start to see what you're going to be doing this semester and what you're expected to do this semester. And you might be able to look at that schedule and start to identify those big rocks in terms of that schedule. Your tests, exams, projects, papers, those are all the big rocks that you've got to make sure you build in enough time for, and usually require some planning for as you're working on them. Okay, so that's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to identify those for yourself and then start to plan for them. So for the next few slides, we're going to take a look at those planning documents that we had for you. Now, again, if you weren't able to download those, that's okay. We're going to show you examples here on the screen, but if you do have them, you can start to make some notes on them if you want to. That's a great option. You can always download them later off of Blackboard if you want to. So the first document that we have in that packet is our semester planner, and we've put this together for you just to help you sort of get organized about all the classes you are taking this semester. And so we have the semester start and end dates, and I'm going to use my on-screen pen here to highlight a few things. So we have our semester start and end dates up here on the left. And then we have our breaks and holidays on the right. Now, a couple things about our breaks and holidays. First of all, I will draw your attention to the fact that right here, we have an important date coming up that I want to make sure all of our students know about, and that is that September 12th, so just a couple weeks from now, you can actually start registering for spring classes. Fall's just started, and we want you to start thinking about spring. But that is, again, if you think about your longer-term goal of earning your certificate, earning your degree, all of those sorts of things, you've always got to be looking ahead to that next semester as well. And so if you want to get the classes you want at the times of day you want, on the days you want, and either traditional or online or whatever you have that you want, register as early as you possibly can. It also just avoids rushes and delays, and you can usually get your appointments easier for advising if you need that. Always good to do that as early as you can. One other thing, a couple of other things here in terms of things to pay attention to. In terms of your class start and end date, most of our classes did start on Monday. You may have a different day of the week that you go to class if you're going to face-to-face classes, but officially our classes started on Monday. They all end officially, the last day of the semester is December 17th, so Saturday. Again, you're going to have different days if you're in on-campus meetings and those sorts of things, but I would really encourage you, especially in online classes, to pay attention to your course calendar to know what the last day is you can turn things in your online class. And let me show you an example of that here. In our Blackboard course, and I need to get back into my course again here. Hang on one second. I've got to log in with a different account. I think I typed that right. There we go. Okay. In my course here in Blackboard, as soon as that comes up, there we go. I can see my course schedule usually it's under the button labeled course information. And in that area, the course schedule is usually located down here towards the bottom. And I can see that actually my last day to turn work in this class is not the last day of the class. It's not that December 17th. It's actually December 11th. So it's really important to pay attention to the specific days or dates in each of these classes. And I'll show you another schedule here in a minute that will give you another example of that. So pay very careful attention to that. Also, for those of you taking online classes, and the majority of our campuses, the breaks for the semester are over here. We get Labor Day off as a holiday. That's September the 5th. And then we also get a nice break the week of Thanksgiving, the Tuesday through Sunday of the week of Thanksgiving we get off. But your on-campus classes might have a different break schedule. Usually in fall semester it's not as bad, but spring with spring breaks is kind of a problem. So just keep an eye on that. Make sure you pay attention to that in your course schedule. Okay? So we use this document then to break down our classes, and I'm going to show you an example of that in a second, and then take a look at those to break them down into our long-term goals and put those on our monthly calendar. And again, as you're starting to read through your schedule, you're looking for words like exams, tests, papers, projects, major reading assignments. And a really important thing to think about is whether or not your instructor breaks those down for you. So, you know, in some classes, if you're doing a paper, the instructor will have you turn in maybe an outline one week, and then a rough draft the next week, and then maybe a final draft the next week. In other classes, they just assign the paper, and then it's 2-3 weeks from then or 2 weeks from then. So you need to think about that and realize that you may have to do that, breaking it down into parts on your own. Let's take a look at what this document looks like, though, after I complete it. So this is an example of our semester planner after it's completed. And this is a full-time student, so they're taking 5 classes and working a full-time job as well. And so there's a spot up here at the top for you to fill in the times that your classes meet over here. And then you can pencil in which days each one of those classes meet during those time slots here. And then you can write in your online classes right over here. Now, a couple of things that I recommend to you. And the first one is when you fill out all of your classes down here and enter in the location, is to put in the entire course ID for each one of your online classes. And in the other handout we've provided for you, that Tips for Student Success document, we have an example showing how to find that course ID. You also can find the course ID for any of your courses in Blackboard. Pull that up again, and I'm going to log out one more time here and log back in. Take me just a second. Apologies for that. I'm going to bring up a different course to show you. There we go. I thought I hit that. Just one second while I show you that other course. What I'm doing right now is not something you would have to do. I'm just trying to get into that other course real quickly. All right. And there you go. You can see that now. So our course ID for any course that we have that's in Blackboard is going to be located right up here on the top left. That's where you'll find the title of the course as well as the course ID. So again, that is the information that I would put in this box right here under class. The location, then you can put that online. And this helps you to figure out sort of where you need to go. Now, some of our campuses are just one building, but some of you are either taking courses maybe from multiple campuses, or you're in one of our campuses that have multiple buildings. So this is just a nice thing to have available to you to know that. And even just the room numbers, remembering what class is in what room number. And then I also like to fill in the instructor information and as well as their contact information. You can always find their contact information now that you have access to your syllabus. You can find that information usually under course information, and it will usually be listed here at the top of the screen or in their syllabus document. So just open that up and you would find that for most of those classes. Something else that a lot of students don't know is that you can find those in Campus Connect as well. Our Campus Connect resource, of course, is where you go to sign up for classes. And I must have closed that window. I thought I had that open. And access information. You can find that on your student schedule. So if you have a student schedule, you can find that. I'm going to search for a class because I don't actually have a schedule since I'm not an actively enrolled student right now. So I'll just find a quick class here. And so I can find my instructor's email address by clicking on, in my student schedule, on this 5-digit number, this course reference number. And this is the number, if you've built your own schedule in Campus Connect, you might know this is the number you type in to the add drop page. So it's a really important number for you to know. If I click on this course reference number, it tells me a lot of additional information about this course, including my instructor's name, as well as a little button that will take me to their email address. And if I click on that button, it will open that up and it will show me what my instructor's email address is. And that might actually opened up on my other screen over here. Let me move that over so that you can see that. You can see that I've got my instructor's email address now. So that is a really great way to find your instructor's email address before the semester begins if you need that as well. Okay. One other thing about this schedule that I want to highlight to you, while most of our courses, and that's this area right here, while most of our courses do run for a full 16 weeks, so from August 22nd through December 17th, we do have a number of courses that are shorter term. They may be 8 weeks or 12 weeks or 4 weeks. And so, for instance, I have this IVYT class that doesn't start until October 22nd on this schedule. So that's another thing I make a note to myself up here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and once I get that organized, then I'm going to start to use that as well as the calendars, those course calendars from each one of my classes, to start to fill in my monthly calendar. Now, what I put on the monthly calendar are my big rocks, those big priorities I have in my life. Now, I've just done the example here with schoolwork, but you might also put in important things about family or other things like that so that you can start to really use this as a way to look ahead. And I need to come back and edit this during this semester if things change and all those sorts of things. But what you'll see on here as I show you a couple of pages of this is that I've added any time that I have to be in class. So for instance, each time my English class meets, I've written that here on the schedule, all of those sorts of things. And then I've also added like important assignments. So in this English class, I have some really major readings to do. I think there are 5 of them in that class. So I've added those as well. And I highlighted them in different colors because the color just helps things stand out to me a little bit. You certainly don't have to do that. You can make this as artistic as you want, or you can do it on a computer, whichever you prefer. Let's take a look for a second at, actually we'll get to that in just a second. That's coming up on another slide. Now you might wonder, why in the world do I want to plan out the whole semester all at once and take a look at sort of the whole semester? Why can't I just manage from week to week? And you can. If you've never used any sort of time management, at least start with week to week. That's better than nothing at all. But if you get in the habit of sort of looking at a larger term view of things and looking at that regularly, again, a good planning system, you're looking at it regularly. Right now, doing it right now, spending that time on it, you've got a little excitement, a little enthusiasm. I'm always more excited at the beginning of the semester. I love the beginning of the semester. I like getting back into the routine of school, all those sorts of things. The other thing, though, is August doesn't look too bad. So these first 2 weeks of August, I've got one major assignment. You know, I've got my marketing and my business class. I've got the regular online assignments. It doesn't look too bad, though. I think, all right, I can probably handle this. Look what happens in September, though. Oh, my goodness. All of a sudden, there we go, now you can see it. All of a sudden, I've got all of these things. I've got a paper and a quiz and a big discussion post due. The next week, I've got a big discussion post, quiz, reading, quiz, just all sorts of stuff that just immediately sneaks up on you if you're not looking ahead and trying to think ahead about what you need to do. I don't know, do I have any musicians, any of you that are musicians on the line? I took piano lessons for about 13 years as a kid, and I was in band and choir. And I think the most important lesson that I learned from learning to play a musical instrument was learning to look ahead to the next measure in music, if you're familiar with that, to what I needed to be thinking about and playing next or singing next, because that's how almost all musicians operate, is looking ahead to the next thing. It also helps you focus on breaking things down into smaller pieces. We talked about that just a little bit. But for instance, I've got this paper that's due here in my English class. And let's say that this is a class where my instructor maybe doesn't break down that assignment for me into initial pieces. So if I got to Sunday night and I'm doing my planning for the week on Sunday night and I realize, oh my gosh, I have a paper due on Wednesday and I've done no work about that paper yet, what's going to happen to my Labor Day? I'm going to lose that holiday. I'm not going to be able to rest or enjoy it with my family. Or instead, if I'm looking, a couple of weeks ahead all the time, then maybe I started, if I go back to August, maybe I started here in August and I made my outline here for my paper. And sorry, that's really terrible and hard to read. And then maybe I did some research here and here, and maybe even, spent a little bit of time on this Friday doing a nice rough draft. And then I sent, so that was this Friday, that was that. I sent that draft to our tutor.com service, let them review it. They gave me some great feedback that I got on Sunday, so I got to edit that. And then I even got to spend another day editing it here, and I still got Labor Day off because I planned ahead and I looked ahead and I worked a little bit at a time rather than leaving everything to one day. The next thing, though, that I think a lot of students struggle with, and I know I have too, is remembering that you've got to get from point A to point B. And you'll see that in an example here when we get to a calendar in just a second. Before we get there, though, I want to show you, again, reminding you that part of time management is also monitoring your time. So it's not only about looking sort of ahead and planning out what you need to do, but it's actually monitoring how you spend your time. And the easiest way, in my opinion, to do that is using a calendar, whether it's a calendar app or whether it's a paper calendar. I'm going to show you a couple of versions of that. For the paper calendar, we're going to keep looking at that here in a second. You can use our printable template that you can download from the handouts area. Or we've also talked to some folks at Passion Planner, and I now, for some reason, cannot get my arrow back. There we go. We've talked to our friends at Passion Planner, and if you want sort of a more formal, year-long pre-printed planner, the folks at Passion Planner also make theirs available for you under their downloads section right up here at the top of the screen. And you can download that. I recommend either the academic planner, either the classic, so that's a full paper size, 8.5 by 11, or their compact version. So you can download those for free. You do have to, when you click the download link, you do have to follow the on-screen instructions before you download it to abide by their copyright restrictions. And for some reason this isn't, there we go. It's coming up, there we go. So you do need to read these instructions and follow those instructions on the screen before you download that. But that is another option for you if you want something that's pre-filled in with all of the dates and all of those sorts of things. Or again, you can use the handout that we provide to you. For those of you that prefer a digital option, I will show you where your student Google account is. So from Campus Connect, go back to the home screen in Campus Connect. Hopefully you all know that you have a student Gmail account. If you don't, you should be checking that regularly. So that's a sort of a bonus tip for today if you haven't done that. Your Gmail account, if I click on that, that will open up my Gmail account address. Notice I don't have any email. I've been doing a good job of logging in every day, checking my email, keeping it organized, and making sure that I'm recording everything that I need to do on my to-do list or in my calendar so that I'm not piling up emails here and missing things. But over here on the right-hand side is a little array of 9 boxes. And if I click on those, now you won't see all of these, but you should see the calendar option. And if I click on calendar, that will open up my student Google Calendar. And so I have that Math 136 class. So let's say that I want to add my math class, and it's on Thursday nights from 6 to 8:50, I believe. So to add my class meetings onto my Google Calendar, I just double click sort of on the calendar right where that first meeting is going to be. And come in here, and this is my Math 136 class. And I edit the time, so this is 6 to, it goes to 8:50. I'll pick 8:30, and then I'll just come in here and type 50. There we go. And then I don't want to have to enter that every single time. So I want to just enter it once and then let it sort of populate out, so I can hit the repeat button. And it's going to meet every Thursday. It meets weekly. It's going to end on December. Our last class meeting for that is December the 15th, because I looked at my class calendar, so I know when that is. And then I'm going to hit done. You could enter in your location. So if you want to enter in your class location, I think that's in NMC 407. I may have that wrong from what I had on the list, but I think that's what it was. You can also change the color of this. So if color means something to you, like if it tells you something about, okay, I want all my classes in this color and maybe my commute time in this color, something like that, you can add that in. If not, you can just leave it default. You don't have to change that. Once you get everything set the way you want it to be, just hit save, and that is now on there. Okay. The other nice thing about this is I can edit those. So if I click through using the arrows up here at the top, I can click through to the next week, and I see that same item is there. And then I have a quiz that's coming up in that class the next week. So I want to actually put that quiz on here so that I remind myself I have that quiz in class. So I can edit just this specific week's item. So this is the one for September the 8th by just double clicking it. And it will open that back up for me again. And I'm going to take out the word class. I'm going to type in quiz number 1. When I hit save, it's going to ask me, do I want to save only this one? So just this specific week, which is what I want to do because I don't want to edit all of them. Or if I want to edit sort of everything that changes, everything that follows, or sort of all of them. But I want to do only this event. And you can see it's added that quiz 1 to just that week, but if I click forward to the next week, it's just like normal. So that's a really great way to use your calendar. You can also see in your calendar that you have a task list. Now, if you don't see this list when you first log into the calendar, you can see it by clicking on this tasks calendar over here. If you don't want to use that tasks list, or if you don't want to see it, you can just click it again. And then I can click the word tasks again to bring that back. Now, for me personally, I prefer a paper task list. I just like the sense of accomplishment I get from crossing something off on a piece of paper. But let me show you how this works just so you understand it. So maybe for my math class, I've got this quiz 1 here, and I am going to do the online practice. There's an online practice my instructor provided for me, and I want to do that on Tuesday. So I can add that on my task list for Tuesday by clicking over in the task area and typing Math 136, online practice. And then if I click the little arrow for it, I can give it a due date of Tuesday the 6th. And notice that it appears, and I can go back to my list, it appears right there on the calendar up at the top, so I can see it for that day. So it kind of gives me a list of all the things I need to do on that day. So that's another good resource. When you finish it, you can just check it off, and notice it checks it off there as well as over on the right-hand side. So that lets you see what you finished. Anything that's still listed over here I haven't finished yet. You can add things to this that also don't have a due date, so maybe I need to call my sister. And I can just sort of do that whenever I want to, but it doesn't have a due date. That does not show up anywhere on here, so if I'm not also looking at my task list, I'm never going to remember to do that. I can also reorder these, so if it's really important to me that I do that today, that I call my sister today, I can just grab it and grab the side of it and move it up to the top so it's farther up on my to-do list so I see it. So it is kind of a nice little to-do list option if you want to use that. Again, don't have to, but it's an option for you. And I want to show you now sort of what this looks like in our paper template that we have provided to you. So in our paper template, again, you're going to fill in on this. We've made this so it's good for any date. Oops. Well, I'll use that. You start with, by filling in here at the top, filling in the week start date and the week end date. And then you would fill in the actual dates for the day of the week so that you know what week this is if you look back at it. And then you start by filling in those big rocks. So what I've filled in here, I've filled in my work schedule, and then I've also filled in my class meetings, so my English 111, my Math 136. That IVYT class on Fridays hasn't started yet. It doesn't start till October, so I haven't put it in here. But then you see I've also put my online class due dates down here. So I've put those sort of at the bottom. Marketing has one on Sunday, and then it has another one on Monday, and business has one on Monday. So I put those down there so I'm tracking those. One thing you might notice that I've added on here, I talked a little while ago about sort of point A to point B thinking. And one of the things I remember when I used to teach class, students would come rushing in right before class, and they're flustered and they're tired because they've worked all day, and they kind of forgot as they were building their schedule that they were going to have to commute from work to school and maybe grab some dinner in there somewhere too. So I think it's a good idea to always pencil in your commute times as well. I live here in Indianapolis, so I have pretty long commute times. Out in some of our smaller towns in Indiana, that's not quite as big a deal for you. But some of you also live a good distance from campus, so you use up a lot of time in your day with commute. You'll also notice the importance of self-care. We've tried to identify that here. For most of you that work a traditional schedule during the day, you're probably sleeping, or hopefully you're sleeping from 11 a.m. to 5 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Some days I wish I could grab a nap, but that's not on the agenda for today. 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. So we've just left those just off the schedule entirely because that is when you should be sleeping. Now, how do I figure out what to fill into all of these other blank parts of my calendar? Remember, we put the big rocks in, and then we put the pebbles in around it, and that's what we use the second page of that planner for, which is our task planner. Again, we start by filling in the week start dates, and you could print this like double-sided if you wanted it all on one piece of paper, or if you want to be able to sort of look back and forth between it, print on two separate pieces of paper, maybe staple them together. And so we use this to highlight, and I'm going to switch over to my pen here. First of all, the things that are due this week that I haven't finished yet would go in here. And then I think the most important part about this document is getting in the habit of using this to look ahead. So what are the things that are coming up that you need to work on? And notice that I've broken this down, like that paper example we were talking about earlier. I've broken that down into some parts. I want to work on that second paper that's due October 5th. And what I want to get done this week is I want to outline it, and I want to read 2 of the 5 articles, find and read 2 of the 5 articles I want to read for myself. So that's the kind of thing you would put on here to try to fill into those times. I'd then take that and I'd start to fill those in. So maybe this session 3 quiz, those aren't too long. They're only about 30 minutes, and I want to get that done. I really left it till really, really late, so I'm going to get it done early on the afternoon on Sunday, and I'm going to make sure that next week, I'm going to take that quiz right there, so I'm going to pencil that in right there. And you'd fill it in the rest. It's not easy to write with a mouse if you haven't tried that before. I'd fill that in on my schedule. And maybe for next week, so that I get a little farther ahead, so I'm not cramming that marketing stuff in just a few hours before the due date, I'm going to make sure that I'm starting to work on my marketing work for next week right here and right here. I'm going to put those on Monday evening so that I make sure I get those done, Monday and Tuesday evening, so I make sure I get that done early in the week for myself. Okay. A couple of things about this. It's always a good idea at the end of each week to sort of go back and review the week just as you're doing your planning for the next week and you're making your planner for the next week. And this is something I do this every week. Every Sunday night, I sit down with a document that looks very much like this, and I start to think through what I need to do each week. As you review the week, think about whether you scheduled enough time to use all of these things and whether you need to build in some time for yourself for those. And then just spend a moment thinking about what really worked this week that you want to repeat, and what didn't work. What do you need to adjust for next week? I find it's really important for myself to be really gentle with myself in that section. I can get really hard on myself. I'm definitely my own worst critic about that. And a few times when I've done something like this, I've been like, well, what didn't work was just everything. I just failed this week. It's a lot easier to think, well, I didn't really leave enough time for my marketing class. I need to build in more time earlier in the week next week for marketing. Again, little bits and pieces work better for me than big chunks. Okay. So with that, we are at the close of our webinar. We do hope that if you have some great study tools or tips or strategies, that you'll share them with us, either here in the question panel, or if you have any other questions with us, you'll share those in the question panel. And we do also ask you for these in the survey. This is a new webinar for us, so we're still trying to build in tips from students. But so far, that semester planner has been the thing that seems to be most interesting to students. So with that, I will wrap up the webinar and draw it to a close. If you do have any other questions or things to share with us in the question pod, we will hang out here online with you for just a few more minutes. But otherwise, we want to thank you for attending. You can exit the webinar just by clicking the X on the top right-hand side of the screen at any time that you're ready to do that now. Just a reminder, you can we ask you to fill out the survey for us, and you'll get that by email. And also just a reminder, you can find all of our handouts and all of our other resources right here on the front page of Blackboard in that Ivy Tech News and Updates section. All right. Thanks very much, everybody, and have a wonderful start to the semester and a great week.